My sister got engaged 3 weeks ago and is demanding I change my wedding date that I booked over a year ago because she found her dream venue that's only available on my date, and now my entire family is planning an intervention to force me to give up June 15th because her love is apparently more important than mine. I'm writing this from my car in a grocery store parking lot because I just had the most insane conversation with my sister, and I need to know if I'm losing my mind or if she's completely out of line. For context, I've been engaged to my fiancé Jake for 14 months. We set our wedding date over a year ago, June 15th, 2024. We booked our venue, sent save the dates, put down deposits, and have been planning this wedding for literally over a year. The date is significant because it's the anniversary of our first date, and June 15th falls on a Saturday this year, which was perfect for our plans. My sister Emma got engaged 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks. Her boyfriend Derek proposed during a weekend trip to Napa Valley, and she called me crying happy tears from the hotel room. I was genuinely thrilled for her. Derek is a great guy. They've been together for 2 years, and I could tell she was over the moon. During that phone call, she was already talking about wedding planning. She mentioned wanting a summer wedding, maybe next year, and asked about my experience with vendors. I spent probably an hour on the phone with her that night, sharing vendor recommendations, talking about what I'd learned during my planning process, and just generally being the supportive older sister. Over the next few days, Emma called me several more times with wedding questions. She wanted to know about my dress shopping experience, how I'd chosen my color scheme, what questions to ask when looking at venues. I was happy to help. Wedding planning can be overwhelming, and I remembered how much I appreciated advice when I was starting out. But then the conversation started getting weird. Emma began asking really specific questions about my wedding. Not just general planning advice, but details about my specific choices. She wanted to know exactly which flowers I was using, what style of dress I'd chosen, what the menu would be at my reception. When I asked why she needed such specific details, she said she was trying to avoid copying me and wanted to make sure our weddings felt different. That seemed thoughtful, so I shared everything openly. I showed her photos of my dress, my venue, my flower arrangements. I gave her contact information for all my vendors, even though most of them were probably already booked for the following year. Then, about a week and a half ago, Emma called me with what she presented as exciting news. "I found the most amazing venue," she said, practically bouncing through the phone. "It's this gorgeous garden estate about an hour outside the city, and they had a cancellation for this summer." "This summer?" I said. "Emma, that's like, really soon. Are you sure you want to plan a wedding that quickly?" "I know it sounds crazy, but Derek and I talked about it, and we don't want a long engagement. We're ready to be married, and this venue is absolutely perfect. It's everything I dreamed of." She went on to describe the place in detail, the gardens, the historic mansion, the romantic gazebo where they could have the ceremony. It did sound beautiful, and I was happy that she'd found something she loved. "When is the date?" I asked. There was a pause. A long pause. "June 15th, she said finally. I thought I'd misheard her. "I'm sorry, what?" "June 15th. I know it's the same day as your wedding, but hear me out. Emma, you cannot be serious. Just listen for a second. I know it seems weird, but think about how perfect this could be. We could have a joint celebration. The families would only have to travel once. We could share some vendors to cut costs, and it would be so special to get married on the same day as my sister." I was speechless. Absolutely speechless. "Emma," I said slowly, "I booked that date over a year ago. We sent save the dates. We have deposits down. Our entire wedding is planned for June 15th. I know. But this venue only had that one date available, and it's so perfect for us. I was hoping maybe you could move your date? Just by a week or 2. Most of the same people are invited to both weddings anyway, so it would actually be more convenient for everyone." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My sister wanted me to change my wedding date, a date I'd had locked in for over a year so that she could book the same date for her wedding that she'd been planning for less than 2 weeks. "Emma, no. Absolutely not. I'm not changing my wedding date. But why not? It's just one day. And my venue only has June 15th available. If I don't take it, I'll have to wait until next year to find something else." "Then wait until next year. or find a different venue. You can't just decide you want my wedding date and expect me to move everything." Emma got quiet for a moment, then said, "I thought you'd be more supportive. This is my dream venue, and it would mean so much to me if we could work something out." "Work something out?" "Emma, there's nothing to work out. I had the date first. End of discussion." She hung up on me. That was a week and a half ago, and since then, the situation has escalated in ways I never could have imagined. First, Emma called our parents to mediate the situation. According to her version of events, I was being inflexible and unsupportive because I wouldn't consider changing my date to accommodate her dream venue. She apparently made it sound like I was being petty and selfish, choosing an arbitrary date over my sister's happiness. My mom called me the next day with this whole speech about how families should compromise and support each other. She said that since I'd been engaged longer, I'd had more time to plan and should be more flexible. She also pointed out that Emma's venue was once in a lifetime, while mine was just a regular venue that probably had other available dates. "Mom, I booked this date over a year ago. I have contracts signed, deposits paid, guests who have already made travel arrangements. I cannot just change my entire wedding because Emma decided she wants the same date." "But, honey, couldn't you at least look into it? Maybe your venue has another date available that would work just as well." I explained that even if my venue had another date available, which was unlikely, since June weekends book up years in advance, I would lose thousands of dollars in deposits and have to start over with vendor contracts. Not to mention that our save the dates had already gone out, and changing the date would be incredibly inconvenient for our guests. "I understand it would be complicated," Mom said, "but Emma is your sister. Don't you want her to have her dream wedding?" "What about my dream wedding? Why is her dream more important than mine?" Mom sighed. "It's not that her dream is more important, but she found this venue that's perfect for her, and you could probably make any date work." That conversation ended with me feeling like I was taking crazy pills. How was I the unreasonable one in this situation? Then Dad called. He was more direct than Mom, but his message was essentially the same. Emma had found her perfect venue, and since I was the older sister and had been engaged longer, I should be the mature one and figure out a compromise. "Dad, the compromise is that Emma finds a different date or a different venue. I'm not moving my wedding." "Come on, sweetheart. It's just logistics. Surely you can work with your vendors to move things around." "It's not just logistics. This date is important to Jake and me. It's our anniversary. And even if that weren't the case, I shouldn't have to change my plans because Emma got engaged and immediately decided she wants everything right now." Dad was quiet for a moment. "Look, I'm just saying that sometimes being family means making sacrifices. Emma really has her heart set on this venue, and if changing your date is what it takes to make that happen, then what? I sacrifice my plans for hers? Why doesn't she sacrifice for me by picking a different date? Because her venue is only available on that one date. Then it's not meant to be. There are thousands of venues in the world, Dad. She's been engaged for 3 weeks. She can find another one." That conversation also ended badly, with Dad saying he hoped I'd think about what kind of sister I wanted to be. Over the next few days, I started hearing from other family members. Emma had apparently called everyone, aunts, uncles, cousins, even our grandparents, to explain the situation and gather support for her position. The story she was telling was that she'd found her dream venue, but it was only available on my wedding date. She was framing it as a tragic conflict where she might have to give up the perfect wedding because her sister wouldn't be flexible about moving her date, just a little bit. Most of the family seemed to be siding with Emma. I got calls from 3 different aunts suggesting that I should be more accommodating. My cousin Sarah actually said, "It's not like you own that date," which made me want to scream. My grandmother, who I'd always been close to, called to say she was disappointed in my selfishness and thought I should prioritize family harmony over stubbornness. The only person who seemed to understand my position was my Uncle Mike, who pointed out that changing a wedding date a few months out would be incredibly expensive and complicated. But even he suggested that maybe I should think about whether the date was really worth damaging my relationship with Emma. Meanwhile, Jake was getting increasingly frustrated with the whole situation. He couldn't believe that Emma expected us to change our date, and he was annoyed that our families were pressuring us instead of telling Emma to find a different venue. "This is insane," he said after I told him about my grandmother's call. "We've been planning this for over a year. We have contracts, we've paid deposits, we've booked everything. And she thinks we should just move it all because she found a venue she likes?" "I know, but everyone keeps saying I should be more flexible because I'm family." "What about her being flexible? What about her being family to you?" Jake had a point. Why was all the pressure on me to compromise? Why wasn't anyone asking Emma to be flexible or considerate? But the family pressure was intense, and I started second-guessing myself. Was I being unreasonable? Was keeping my wedding date really worth all this family drama? I decided to do some research into what it would actually cost to change our date, thinking that maybe if I could show the family how expensive and complicated it would be, they'd understand why I was reluctant. The numbers were staggering. Our venue would keep our $5,000 deposit, and we'd have to pay another $3,000 change fee, plus rebook at a higher rate since we'd be doing it last minute. Our photographer would keep his $2,000 deposit, and we'd have to find someone else since he was already booked on other dates. Same with our band, our florist, and our caterer. In total, changing our date would cost us about $15,000 in lost deposits and fees, plus the stress of replanning major portions of our wedding just months before the event. And that was assuming we could even find vendors available on a different date, which was far from guaranteed. When I presented these numbers to my parents, hoping they'd finally understand why moving our date wasn't a simple request, my mom said, "Well, that is a lot of money. But Emma's happiness is worth more than money, don't you think?" I wanted to hang up and never speak to any of them again. That was when I realized that this wasn't really about the venue or the date. This was about the family dynamics that had been in place for years, where Emma's needs and wants were prioritized over mine, and I was expected to be the mature one who accommodated her. Emma has always been the baby of the family, the one everyone protected and indulged. When we were kids, I was constantly told to let Emma have a turn or be nice to your little sister. When Emma wanted something I had, I was expected to share. When Emma got in trouble, I was often expected to help her or cover for her. As adults, the pattern continued. When Emma was struggling financially after college, I was the one who helped her with rent. When Emma had relationship drama, I was her sounding board and support system. When Emma needed anything, the family's default assumption was that I would step up and help. But when I needed support, when I was planning my wedding and wanted my family to be excited and helpful, suddenly Emma's needs took precedence again. I realized that if I gave in on this, it would set a precedent for the rest of our lives. Emma would learn that she could make unreasonable demands and expect me to accommodate them. The family would learn that my boundaries and needs were negotiable in a way that Emma's weren't. So I made a decision. I called Emma directly and told her, in no uncertain terms, that I would not be changing my wedding date. I explained the financial and logistical impossibility of moving everything, and I made it clear that the conversation was over. "I've been engaged for 14 months and planning this wedding for over a year," I told her. "You've been engaged for 3 weeks. If your venue is only available on my date, then it's not the right venue for you." Emma started crying. "But it's perfect for us. And it would be so special to get married on the same day as you." "Emma, if you wanted to get married on the same day as me, you should have asked before I booked everything. You can't decide after the fact that you want my date. I didn't know I was going to find this venue. It just happened. And that's not my problem. You need to find a different date or a different venue." "What if we shared the venue?" she said suddenly. "What if we had both weddings at your place?" I was floored. "You want to share my wedding venue?" "Emma, do you hear yourself right now? It would be like a double wedding. It could be really beautiful and meaningful."
No.
Absolutely not. This is my wedding day. I'm not sharing it with anyone, but we're sisters. It would be so special. "Emma, stop. Just stop. You are not having your wedding on June 15th, and you are not sharing my venue. Those are not options. Figure something else out." That conversation ended with Emma sobbing and hanging up on me again. Within hours, my phone was ringing with family members calling to tell me how cruel I'd been to Emma and how I'd broken her heart by refusing to even consider her suggestions. My mom called, crying, to say that Emma was devastated and that I needed to call her back and apologize for being so harsh. Apologize for what? For refusing to give up my wedding date. For being so mean about it. Emma was trying to find a compromise, and you just shut her down completely. Mom, sharing my wedding venue is not a compromise. It's completely insane. Maybe it's not ideal, but at least she was trying to find a solution that would work for everyone. The solution that works for everyone is Emma picking a different date. This went on for hours. Different family members calling to guilt-trip me, to tell me I was being selfish, to suggest that I was prioritizing a party over my relationship with my sister. The breaking point came when Emma showed up at my apartment unannounced yesterday evening. Jake answered the door, and I could hear Emma asking if she could talk to me. She'd been crying, her eyes were red and puffy, and she looked genuinely upset. "We need to figure this out," she said when I came to the door. "There's nothing to figure out, Emma. I'm not changing my date. Please, just listen to me. I've been thinking about this nonstop, and I have an idea." Against my better judgment, I let her in. Emma's idea was somehow even more ridiculous than her previous suggestions. She wanted me to move my wedding to Friday, June 14th, so that she could have a venue on Saturday, June 15th. In her mind, this was a perfect compromise because we'd still have our weddings on the same weekend. It would be like a celebration that lasted all weekend, and the families could attend both events. "Emma, Friday weddings are significantly cheaper because nobody wants them. All of our guests would have to take time off work, and I'd still have to pay all the change fees and rebook vendors. But you'd still get to have your wedding on your anniversary weekend," she said, as if moving it by one day was barely any change at all.
No, Emma.
The answer is no. That's when she completely lost it. Started crying harder, saying that I obviously didn't care about her happiness and that she never thought I could be so selfish. She said she'd dreamed of her wedding day her whole life, and now I was destroying that dream over one day. "You've had over a year to plan your perfect wedding," she sobbed. "Can't you just give me this one thing? This one day?" "Emma, it's not just one day. It's my wedding day. The day I've been planning for over a year." "But I love Derek more than you love Jake," she said suddenly. I stared at her. "What did you just say?" I just mean that this is more important to me than your wedding is to you. You and Jake are already practically married anyway. You've been together for so long that getting married is just a formality. But Derek and I are still in that exciting, passionate phase where we can't wait to be husband and wife." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Emma was actually arguing that her relationship was more valid than mine, and therefore her wedding should take precedence. "Get out," I said.
What?
"Get out of my apartment right now." "Come on, I didn't mean..." "Yes, you did. You absolutely meant it. You think your relationship matters more than mine, so you should get to have whatever you want for your wedding, and I should just accommodate you."
Get out.
Emma left, but not before telling me that she hoped I was happy with the choice I was making and that I'd probably regret prioritizing a date over my family. This morning, I woke up to a text from my mom saying that the family had decided to have an intervention-style phone call with me tonight to work through this situation and find a compromise that everyone could live with. I'm not participating in that phone call. I'm also not changing my wedding date. But I'm honestly questioning everything about my family relationships right now. The fact that they all think Emma's 3-week engagement should take precedence over my 14-month engagement is mind-blowing to me. The fact that they're treating me like the unreasonable one for wanting to keep the date I booked over a year ago is insane. Am I missing something? Is there some perspective I'm not seeing that would make Emma's position reasonable? Because from where I'm sitting, this is what happened. I got engaged and booked my wedding date over a year in advance. Emma got engaged 3 weeks ago, found a venue she liked that happened to be available on my date, and decided that I should move my entire wedding so she could have that specific venue on that specific date. When I said no, she escalated to suggesting we share a venue or that I move my wedding by one day to accommodate her. When I said no to those suggestions too, she told me that her relationship was more important than mine and that I was being selfish for not giving her what she wanted. Now my entire family is acting like I'm the problem and planning an intervention to pressure me into changing my mind. Is this normal family behavior? Are there families where this kind of demand would be considered reasonable? I feel like I'm going crazy, but I also feel like I need to stand my ground here. If I give in on this, what's next? Will Emma expect me to rearrange my life every time she wants something that conflicts with my plans? Jake is 100% supportive of my decision not to change the date. He thinks my family is being completely unreasonable, and he's angry on my behalf about how they're treating me. If they can't understand why you won't move your wedding for someone who's been engaged for 3 weeks, then they don't deserve to be at your wedding, he said this morning. Part of me is starting to think he's right. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to change my wedding date so that my sister can have her dream venue on the same day? Should I be more flexible and accommodating, or is Emma completely out of line? TLDR, I've been engaged for 14 months with my wedding date set for June 15th, everything booked and deposits paid. My sister got engaged 3 weeks ago and wants the same date for her dream venue. She's demanding I change my date and has gotten the whole family to pressure me, saying her love is more important than mine and I should accommodate her since I've had more time to plan. I'm refusing to move my wedding, and the family is planning an intervention. AITA for not giving up my wedding date for my sister's last-minute demands?